Very good morning to you. I thought we'd talk about the topic of radiation in terms or with respect to cosmic radiation, at least, because that's an important topic for us, because we're interested in the magnetic pole reversal. And part of the process of the magnetic pole reversing is a weakening magnetosphere, which is our primary protective shield against cosmic rays coming through our atmosphere. And we know that that is weakening annually. So the amount of annual cosmic radiation at sea level is increasing annually as a result of that. So I thought we'd look at the levels of radiation or the equivalent dosage in millisieverts, so that you can get an idea as to where we are right now. You can see that, if we was to, spend the next 6 or 7 years on this planet at sea surface level, we would receive the same amount of radiation as what you would spending 500 days on Mars. So just to give you an idea of what's happening. And of course, I will say this, that it also depends on your altitude. As the altitude increases, your protection becomes weaker. And the way to look at this is, if you're firing something, or a good AR is a good analogy. If you've got a torch on a clear night, the beam pattern goes a long way. If you've got a torch on a foggy night, the beam pattern is only able to penetrate a certain distance because it's coming into action with all the other moist air, and that is blocking the beam pattern going any further than that. And that's exactly what's happening with our atmosphere. The higher up in the atmosphere, it's less dense, so it comes through a lot quicker, but it has to pass through now the lower levels of our atmosphere until it comes down to sea level, and that is like the beam of light passing through the fog or all that mist. As it's going through all the mist, it is slowly getting weakened to the point at where it reaches sea level, and there is only a small or less significant amount of radiation or that beam pattern of the torch at that level. So the higher you go, the more radiation as a result of the less interaction with the beam pattern, or the less interaction with molecules. So just to give you an idea. Now we've got a couple of things, a couple of experiments we're going to try this afternoon. If they prove successful, our patrons that have been with us for a while are going to be pleasantly surprised at least twice a month. Like I say, I'm just practicing on getting the videos to the patrons, but I'm using the YouTube platform, which I'll make the videos private for the YouTube viewers, but it will be accessible for the patrons, and that's because I want to do a special video for them at least twice a month, and I think they're going to be delighted in what that video is going to entail. The other thing that we've been up to here at the at the observatory is doing iron wind experiments, and I've not been showing you some of the results of that, but I will just say it's something that I'm planning on doing over the next few days, just bringing you up to date with that. We are now pumping iron wind into the hydrogen cell. You haven't seen the hydrogen cell that we've got. This is a device, if you're not familiar with what hydrogen cells do, you put hydrogen on one side, oxygen on the other, and this device will produce electricity. It's not a new technology. We've got hydrogen cell cars, so the hydrogen gas is in a bottle, compressed. It goes through a tube into the hydrogen fuel cell. It is then generating electricity to the point where it can power the motors of the vehicles. We've got these already, there's nothing new there. But what's new about this is that by pumping iron wind onto the one side of the fuel cell, the side where the hydrogen goes, we are able to achieve electricity in the same manner. What is unique about this? Oh, I'm sure you can imagine, if we don't have to use compressed hydrogen gas, which you'd have to pay to compress it, and it's not really available at sea surface level because it's a very lightweight gas. Most of it is up in the upper atmosphere. If we could get that hydrogen fuel cell running smoothly on iron wind or iron charged wind on the hydrogen side of the plate of the fuel cell, then we've made a remarkable discovery, and obviously that means we can produce electricity more efficiently I don't know anybody else that has gone down this route of this level of, this line of experiments. But that's, not uncommon for me. And it's on the next subject that I wanted to talk about, just the way sometimes my mind thinks. And, just having a cigarette this morning, I know it's bad for my health, and a coffee, I know that can be bad for my health as well, too much. But, I have these moments in the mornings. I think my brain is more active early in the morning as opposed to being late on the evening. And, I do have some strange things that go through my mind. And I don't know why this particular two things came together. But when I started to, just make a few notes, it started to make a lot of sense. And I wanted to share that with you, because I bet you don't even think about these things. Or, put them together in the same ways that I do. But they, I looked at this and I thought, God, that makes a lot of sense. And I wonder if it is the case. And I'll just explain what those two things. I was looking at what governments do to persuade other what governments do to persuade or control other governments around the world. When they don't do what they tell them to, that they're being told to do, like in the case of the European countries and America, and let's say the United Nations told Russia not to invade the Ukraine. They went ahead and invaded Ukraine, and what did we do? The United Nations, we imposed sanctions on them countries. So I thought then, well, okay, a sanction then is pretty much cutting people off from business and therefore money. And then I thought, well, so when the general public experience recessions, are they actually being sanctioned by governments? Because it's the same thing, money's becoming scarce, and is sanctions the same as recessions? And then I started to make a few notes. Sanctions can lead to wars, let's face it, with other countries, and recessions can lead to, unrest and overthrowing of governments in the same way, because the outcomes of sanctions and recessions are the same. And recessions can lead to wars with authorities or governments. And sanctions can lead to wars with countries that have been sanctioned. War is the potential outcome in both cases of recession and, sanctions. I just thought, I know you're probably thinking, Gene, God, why do you, even go down these rabbit holes? Because, I started to think, are we being sanctioned? Is this a deliberate recession? Let's face it, who is the ones that can bring about a recession? Well, if a government is not running the country in the way it should, well, that can lead to terrible outcomes, which could lead to recessions. But they could also be deliberate outcomes, like sanctions are imposed on countries. Now, you look around the world at all the countries that are actually in recession right now. I mean, they say it's a people's depression in America, but is that a recession actually? Are they in an official recession at the moment? I don't know, but I think they're certainly going that way, even if it's not been classified as that. Here in the UK, we are actually in a recession, it's confirmed. And, if you look at the countries around the world, you'll see just how many countries at present time are being categorised as being in a recession. But is it purposely done? Is it something that has been done deliberate? And that is, what I would like you to think about today. Now, I asked a question yesterday in the comment section, and I don't know whether people got to the point in the video where I asked the question and had left already, or they just wasn't able, through whatever device they was watching the video on, able to comment. Give me your thoughts on what I've just shared with you. Give me your thoughts on the levels of cosmic radiation that we're experiencing now, and give me your thoughts on the alternative ways in which we are trying to create electricity. Give me your thoughts on fusion generators, because there's a lot of countries investing trillions in this industry, and yet to show one working example for a prolonged period of time. Yes, I've seen them run for a few seconds and maybe even a minute, but the damage to the actual machinery and equipment after that run has, meant that, they've had to relook at the way that which they contain the plasma, as well as a lot of other things as well. So just give me your thoughts. What I'm after is some feedback. And yes, you know what? I'm still doing the magnetic pole positioning for you guys. There's a big surprise coming for the patrons, and you can become one of our patrons for as little as $5 a month. Think about that. You can be kept informed on this for as little as $5 by just becoming one of our patrons. And I'll put the link down there in the description. And you can also, if you want to, make a recurring payment. If Patreon's not for you, you can make a recurring payment on PayPal. Simple. But the point is that we try and restore something we had back in October last year with regards to, the operating funds of this observatory. We've stood with you guys for a long period of time, and we don't want you to go without this information. If we can deliver it for everybody at $5 each, it's not a lot of money. It's the price of a good cup of coffee. So, we hope that, you consider doing that, and the links are down there in the description. Give me your thoughts, guys. As always, take care of your loved ones. Bye for now.